JP Morgan Chase have their annual shareholders meeting today. In 2024, JP Morgan financed more fossil fuels than any other bank on the planet. $53.5 billion. They also have $27.7 billion invested in the companies that are building nuclear weapons. JP Morgan are the largest underwriter of nuclear weapons producers on the planet. 20 of the 24 companies that are known to build nuclear warheads are JP Morgan clients. These include RTX, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Honeywell, L3 Harris, BAE, Rolls-Royce, Babcock, Bechtel, and General Dynamics. In October 2025, Jamie Dimon announced JP Morgan's new $1.5 trillion Security and Resilience Initiative. This is their investor-facing newsletter about that initiative. Quoted verbatim from this newsletter, it says, "Nuclear is emerging as a critical player in the energy transition. Nuclear presents a unique potential to provide reliable power while reducing carbon emissions. Nuclear power generates 20% of electricity and over 50% of clean energy in the United States, positioning it as a cornerstone of carbon transition efforts. Nuclear power's stable and sustainable output makes it an important component of a low-carbon energy future, supporting global sustainability goals." And if you want to invest in humanity's doom, you can contact Alexei Virul, Executive Director of Global Natural Resources and Investment Banking at JP Morgan. Global Natural Resources and Investment Banking. Bitch, the fuck? He says, "We are at an inflection point where there is a dire absolute need for more power generation, paired with the fact that we are all trying to reduce carbon emissions. Nuclear generation checks these boxes." Do you see the sleight of hand? Yes, it is technically correct that nuclear power doesn't emit as much carbon, but it does create a lot of dangerous waste. He says, "I played a part in helping the largest owner of nuclear energy in the US expand its business as part of the JP Morgan team that served as the financial advisors to Constellation in its recent agreement to acquire Calpine Corp." That's your boilerplate? You're proud of this? Okay, so a little science lesson for the investment bankers. Nuclear is not a renewable source of energy. Spent uranium does not regrow. The waste is not biodegradable. JP Morgan is selling this to gobshites with too much money as green economy banking. They even hired Heather Zykal, who was Obama's Deputy Assistant for Climate and Energy. Heather's value to JP Morgan is not what she learned with Obama. It's this. It's literally this. The photo op for the investor brochure. So they can launder that fact. It was a strategic hire. It gives all of this a veneer of legitimacy. Somebody who worked on climate for Obama could not possibly be laundering warheads. Don't ask Obama about the drones, okay? Here's the trick that JP Morgan are using so that they can pretend that they're green as they finance more filth. They narrow the scope of what we're looking at before they tell you what it is. Their target as a bank is not to reduce how much gas and oil they finance. They measure their greenness on the carbon intensity per unit of energy. And then they use any scrap of decent investment that is on their books to balance out all of the shit. So if they finance one wind farm and 6 new oil wells, then that farm gives them credit that cancels out the oil wells. That's not real on paper. So using their metrics, the actual amount of gas and oil on their books can grow and is growing, but the ratio is falling. And they called this bullshit their energy mix. The Paris Agreement is measured in absolute emissions. The atmosphere does not care about your ratio. JP Morgan's absolute fossil financing went up $10 billion in just 2024. But the reported carbon intensity is down, so they get to take a medal. JP Morgan's carbon compass is a smokescreen. The Security and Resiliency Initiative, in Diamond's own words, has 5 priorities: supply chain and advanced manufacturing, including critical minerals; defense and aerospace, including autonomous drones and robotics; energy independence, including grids for data centers; frontier tech, including AI, crypto, and quantum; and 5 is just pharmaceuticals. That's your plan. That's your green energy transition plan. Oh my god. Make sure that there are no humans left alive, so none of it matters anyway. No solar, no wind, no building insulation, no EV charging, no Paris Agreement. Critical minerals are the minerals that we need to go green. They are putting them into drones and hoping that you won't notice. Here are some of the companies that are receiving that security and resilience money. In September 2025, Shield AI got $1.5 billion, and they are using that to build autonomous drones being used in Israel and Ukraine. Here are some of the green energy clients that JP Morgan serves: Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, RTX or Raytheon, General Dynamics. They gave $700 million to X Energy to build nuclear reactors, and they gave $1 billion to Oklo to build nuclear reactors. Not a single solar panel. $1.5 trillion in green energy investments and not a single solar panel. Then they helped Constellation Energy merge with Calpine. That deal, worth $26.6 billion, combines America's largest nuclear fleet with America's largest gas-fired power generator. That's what they're calling the carbon transition. If I could ask Jamie Dimon one question at this meeting today, and I may well still hold shares in this bank from my corporate days, so maybe next year I might have to show up and ask him. But if I could ask that today, Mr. Dimon, in 2024, JP Morgan was the world's #1 financier of both fossil fuels and nuclear. $53.5 billion in fossil fuels and $27.7 billion in nuclear war. Your Carbon Compass page says you are aligned with the Paris Agreement. In October 2025, you announced $1.5 trillion for defense, critical minerals, and energy independence. Your shareholder letter does not mention Paris once. Your climate targets are deliberately measured in intensity, not absolute volumes. So your book is growing while your metric falls. Your green economy bankers and your war bankers are financing the same mineral supply chains, the same super alloys, the same magnets, the same companies. Your bank is the #1 underwriter of the producers of doom. My question, Mr. Dimon, is why? What is the point of any of this? Are you suicidal? Do you hate your 3 daughters? Why? You have 3 daughters. The youngest is 12. By the time she is your age, on current emission pathways that your bank helped finance, climate scientists project sea level rise, total food system collapse, an unlivable wet bulb temperature, and God knows what kind of radioactive spills. Your own research desk knows this. You have personally read the scenarios. You set 2030 carbon intensity targets in 2021, and then in 2024, you financed another $53.5 billion of fossil fuels, more than any other bank on the planet. More than the year before. Why? In October, you announced $1.5 trillion for defense, critical minerals, and energy independence. You then name drones, robots, and shipbuilding. You did not name solar, you did not name wind, you did not name grid storage. I'm not going to ask if you're stupid because I've read your annual reports. You're not stupid. And I'm not going to ask if you're evil because that word gets you off the hook. Since you got that job, you have had the capital, the position, the information, and the choice. You could have funded the green transition. You could have been a hero. You would still be a billionaire with no angry mob. Why did you choose to finance a future your children cannot live in